Drones have become a critical element in modern warfare. And if you've been following the news, you've probably heard a lot about how they're reshaping battlefields, especially in conflicts like Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But there's a particular category of drones that the U.S. Army is calling one of the most complex and dangerous threats: Group 3 drones. These mid-size unmanned aerial systems, UAS, don't quite fit into the same box as smaller drones or larger aircraft, which makes defending against them particularly tricky. Now let's dive deeper into why Group 3 drones are seen as such a major challenge. According to Major General David Stewart, the director of the Joint Counter-Unmanned Aircraft Systems Office, these drones occupy an uncomfortable middle ground between smaller drones, which can often be neutralized by self-defense missions, and larger drones, which are typically handled by more traditional air defense systems like Patriot missile batteries. Group 3 drones are large enough to carry significant payloads and fly long distances, but small enough that they don't always trigger the sophisticated air defenses designed for larger threats. Think of it this way. Smaller drones like Group 1 and 2 systems are often something every unit can deal with on its own. They're a known quantity, easy enough to spot and take down using standard tactics and defenses. Larger drones, like those in Groups 4 and 5, are often the domain of air defense commanders, who can call in fighter jets or long-range interceptors to handle the threat. But Group 3 drones? They kind of fall in the gap. Too big for small defenses, too small for the bigger systems. This puts them in a sweet spot for adversaries looking to exploit vulnerabilities in our defenses. To make things worse, it's not just about how capable these drones are, it's about cost. As Major General Frank Lozano pointed out, the interceptors we use to take down drones like the Coyote or Roadrunner systems are way more expensive than the drones themselves. For example, a single Coyote costs around $120,000, which might not sound like much in the context of military budgets. But when you're using these systems to take down drones that are much cheaper, it becomes a numbers game we can't win in the long run. This is where the cost curve problem comes in. How do you defeat a low-cost threat with high-cost defenses without going broke? That's why the Army is looking to more sustainable solutions like lasers. Yeah, you heard me right, lasers. They're still in development, but the idea is that lasers could offer a much cheaper way to knock out these drones compared to using missiles or kinetic interceptors. Lasers are relatively inexpensive to operate once they're set up, and they could give us a real edge in drone warfare. But it's not just about finding new weapons. Major General Rich Harrison emphasized the need for better integration of our existing defenses. Right now, we have different systems in place, but they don't always work together seamlessly. This layered defense approach, where you combine multiple systems to cover different aspects of the drone threat, is essential, but it's also a huge challenge to get it right. One of the big problems, Harrison pointed out, is that our radar systems are mostly designed to track larger targets, like planes or missiles. Smaller drones can slip through the cracks because they have such a small radar signature, especially when they're flying low or blending into the clutter of the battlefield. This is a big deal in urban settings, where you have all kinds of obstacles and interference that can make tracking drones even harder. Then there's the legal and policy side of things. In densely populated areas, taking down a drone isn't always as simple as firing a missile at it. There are restrictions on what can be done in certain areas, and that complicates things further. And as drone technology evolves, adversaries are getting smarter. They're building drones that can resist electronic warfare tactics, which means the Army and other military branches need to stay one step ahead by exploiting cyber vulnerabilities in these systems. Looking forward, Maj, General Stewart says the challenge isn't just limited to drones in the sky. The threat is expanding to land and sea-based systems as well, meaning the Pentagon is working on countermeasures for unmanned threats from all directions. The takeaway here? Drone warfare is evolving rapidly, and we're only beginning to see how complex and widespread the threat can become. In conclusion, as unmanned aerial systems become more prevalent and sophisticated, the Army and other military forces must adapt quickly to keep up. The evolving nature of the threat, particularly from mid-sized drones like those in Group 3, means that the future of warfare will involve a mix of kinetic and non-kinetic defenses, greater integration of existing systems, and a heavy emphasis on innovation. So stay tuned, because this is just the beginning of a new era in military technology.